I'm really pleased to see you here tonight, and I'm really pleased that this storm that's coming in waited a day so that we didn't have to reschedule for you. My name is Linda Erdis. I'm with Arlington Public Schools, Assistant Superintendent of School and Community Relations, and I am thrilled to have a full house of kindergarten parents here tonight. Most of you about 5 years ago were worrying about the nursery or names or whatever, and now we have a whole lot of other things for you to think about tonight. And we're going to try to get you through in a very quick introduction here tonight on registering and options and a lot of information. But I am going to say that probably not all of it's going to stick. So there are a lot of resources that you received when you came in. You have the program, you have the registration packet, you have the guidebook, and the guidebook has lots of phone numbers. Use it over the next few months as you do the transition. We just want to get you started tonight. Before I introduce the other speakers and we get started, we always like to know how many of the crowd here are here because you will have the first child in your family going to kindergarten in next fall. Ooh! So the class of 2032 is in good hands with moms and dads. We're happy to have you here. For those of you who are media savvy, we're on, you can use the hashtag KInfoNight19. If you have questions through the night, staff will be monitoring it and trying to respond to you. So that if you don't think to write it down, just tweet it to us and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Here's how we're going to go tonight. We're going to, you're going to hear a little bit from our chair, Reed Goldstein, and then from Dr. Murphy, the superintendent. You'll have a kindergarten curriculum overview from Wendy Pilch, our elementary director of elementary education. And then I'm going to come back and talk to you about school options and transfers and forms and sort of procedures. After the general session, you'll have an opportunity to talk to Extended Day about their program and to visit with some of our principals. So with no further ado, let me turn it over to Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you very much. Good evening, thank you all for coming tonight, and welcome to National Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day. I love that sound. I'm Reed Goldstein, I'm the chair of the school board, and on behalf of Vice Chair Tanya Talento and members Barbara Cannonen, Monique O'Grady, and Nancy Van Doren, we are delighted to welcome you and your family to Arlington Public Schools. Whether you're joining APS this fall for the first time or already have a student in APS, we are here to provide your child with an educational experience focused on successful outcomes for their future. I know, this is a huge step for you and your youngster as they move from under the wings of near constant parent protectiveness to a new routine and new friends and a new world where you don't have total control or total visibility. I'm an APS lifer. My two daughters went all the way through APS from kindergarten through high school graduation, and by their own description, were exceptionally well prepared for college and then work life. Arlington Public Schools is growing rapidly, and you may have heard about efforts to accommodate rapidly rising enrollment through recent boundary changes and through school construction and with tight budgets. Community discussion about these topics can lead one to believe that they are the measures of school system quality and success, but they're not. People are flocking to APS because we are keeping the quality of instruction high despite growing by nearly 1,000 students a year every year for the past 10 years. And we're keeping the quality of instruction high with low class sizes, through recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers, administrators, and staff, and by providing robust student supports. Finally, I encourage you to become active members of your school communities. We love to see families being a part of their children's journey through APS, as family involvement is a key component of their future success. Please visit the APS website to learn about our ongoing initiatives and the work of the school board. We have many opportunities for you to be engaged. We are here to listen to your feedback, and we invite you to be a part of shaping your school system and your child's academic life. Now, normally, in past years, I stay for all the way through the evening for questions. Unfortunately, I cannot stay tonight. My mother is in town briefly, and I'm leaving shortly to spend some time with her. But if you have questions or comments, please do not hesitate to contact me. I have committed to respond within 24 hours. This is an exciting time for you and your families. Again, welcome to Arlington Public Schools. And now I'd like to introduce the superintendent, Dr. Murphy. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. It's a pleasure to be here, and it is a pleasure to see all of you. We are very proud of our school division, as you'll see throughout the evening, but I think what we're most proud of is the children, your children, that are coming to us and that will have a fabulous career here. There is a lot of excitement. There's going to be a lot of information you're going to get this evening. And so I want to leave you with a couple things that hopefully will stick and you'll remember, and then you can call on those things. One question I get all the time is, what's the most important thing for me to do, or what's the most important person for me to connect with? I want to let you folks know that my mother was a kindergarten teacher, that I was a principal, that I started out as a teacher assistant, and so my experiences have kind of brought me through a gamut of experiences which I feel I've been most fortunate to have. The number one thing I would encourage all of you to do, and it was something I learned when I was a principal, is to make that connection with your principal, with your teacher, and it's kind of an initial, hi, I'm Pat Murphy, I have 2 kids, one's a first grader, one's a second grader, and just continue to make that connection, because through that connection, your teachers and your principals will get to know your children, and then they'll begin to put names and faces together. But it may take 2 or 3 times through that initial introduction when school starts and when you get into the fall. But for me, having been a principal and an administrator of a school, that was very helpful for me, so that when I recognized the parents and the kids and made that connection, then I could play a much more important and supportive role. So I pass that along as a lesson that I learned. It's a question that you often get. What's the number one thing you would tell parents? That's my number one thing right there, and that's based on some personal experience. Now, education has shifted. We're right here in the nation's capital. We see a lot of federal legislation around what education is, and we have shifted along with that. I think Arlington is progressive in many of the things that it looks at and how we approach this. And I think we've really adopted this whole idea of looking at the whole child, looking at what the child's interests are, what they would be successful at, and how we can prepare them not only for their experience when they start out in kindergarten, but then how we prepare them once they graduate and then they move on to whatever careers or post-secondary opportunities. So I always have my eye on the horizon. Where are we going? What does that look like? And how do I prepare all of our students for really that next step, whether it's kindergarten to first grade, or it's K to 12, or on to post-secondary. And so we've adopted this whole child approach, really looking at all aspects of the social, emotional, physical, and academic part of their lives. And I think you'll see that threaded throughout the conversation tonight, as well as throughout their academic career here. We've just adopted a new strategic plan, and we've had a great deal of community involvement in that. But you can see all the aspects of looking at the whole child as well as our workforce, our operations, and then also forging partnerships. And those partnerships start directly with families and how we build a supportive mechanism for all our children so that they, in fact, can succeed. And that, again, will be something that we kind of communicate over and over, and something that we talk about you as kind of gear up here to have your children enter Arlington Public Schools. So before I begin to introduce our principals and assistant principals, and they are flanked here on either side of us, so I would ask them when I call you folks out to stand and wave so people can begin to identify names and faces. The other piece is I'd like for you to give all of our principals and assistant principals a big round of applause. Last week was Virginia's Principal Appreciation Week here in Arlington, but across the state. So let's give them a big applause for the job that they do for us here in Arlington. So we're going to go alphabetically, and I'm going to start with Abington Elementary, Principal Joanne Wetta. Please, if you guys could just stand and wave, and Blandine Linguidi. Arlington Science Focus Principal Mary Begley and Barbara Jones. Arlington Traditional Principal Holly Hawthorne and Assistant Jennifer Gilday. Ashland Principal Brianna McLean and Assistant Principal Megan Neary. Claremont Immersion Principal Jessica Panfield and Assistant Principal Ilian Gonzalez. There they are. Drew Model School Principal Kimberly Graves and Tracy Gaither. Discovery Principal Aaron Rousseau and Assistant Judith Seberg. Fleet Elementary Principal Cameron Snyder and Assistant Elizabeth Walsh. Glebe Elementary Principal Jamie Borg and Assistant Ingrid Clark Marshall. Hoffman Boston Principal Heidi Smith and Assistant Catherine Wang. Jamestown Principal Michelle McCarthy and Assistant Monica Roach. Montessori Public School of Arlington Principal Katerina Genovi and Assistant Yolanda Nasheed. Key Immersion Principal Marlene Perdoma and Assistant Nicole Maldonado. Long Branch Principal Felicia Rousseau and Assistant Laura Sarud. McKinley Principal Colin Brown and Assistant Gina Miller. Nottingham Principal Eileen Gardner and Assistant Megan Lynch. Oak Ridge Principal Dr. Lynn Wright and Assistants Erica Sanchez and Ines Al-Mahid. Randolph Principal Carlos Ramirez and Assistant Rebecca Kennedy. Taylor Principal Harold Pellegrine and Yvonne Dangerfield. Tuckahoe Principal Mitch Pascal and Francis Leganar. So we've got a short little video that we'd like to share with you this evening, and it's from the perspective of some kindergartners sharing what they'd like you to know about kindergarten. So let's take a listen, and Dwayne, if you can cue that up, that would be great.
I like solving problems on the iPad. Coloring. Lots of things. Math with Mrs. Glick. I like to do pennies. Math games. Building blocks. Making new friends. When I first came here. I like reading with an iPad.
Love reading books.
We line up. In kindergarten, we don't take any naps. In kindergarten, we learn to open our milk cartons. We learn how to sit crisscross applesauce. They're scared. You can tell it's okay. Don't worry, your parents are gonna pick you up just a little bit later than you got picked up at preschool. If you're nervous, just like me. It happens to me all the time. Yeah, they make lots of sense. And I have lots of fun. This is not a place to be scared of.
Well, that is not an act that I want to follow. I'm Wendy Pilch, Elementary and Early Childhood Director, and I have my coordinator, Elaine Perkins, here in the back. So if you have any questions afterwards, we will be around. Starting kindergarten is such an exciting time. In APS, you can expect a classroom that's inclusive. There'll be a balance of whole and small group instruction and some independent learning time. We focus on all core academic areas, so your students will have math and literacy daily, science, social studies, and they have opportunities for art, music, physical education, and even some foreign language throughout the entire week. So as you prepare your student for kindergarten, we know that the transition is a big one. So there are lots of things you can do to make that transition smoother. We encourage you to play games at home, to try to get your students doing some tasks independently, like opening their milk, helping them learn their information, their personal information, so they know how to reach you if there were ever an emergency. And some other things you can do are establish a morning and evening routine. We know the day can seem long at the beginning for our kindergartners, so getting that stamina built. Also, one other recommendation that's not on here, take your child to the playground of the school that they'll be going to over the summer so that they start to have some comfort with that building and they feel like it is not a completely foreign place to them. And acknowledge your students' feelings about coming to school and that a change can really affect them. We have some great recommended books for you to check out from your local library. And one of my favorites is The Kissing Hand, but we have lots of good recommendations up here. So lots of good pieces online also as you try to prepare your child for kindergarten if you visit our early childhood website. And I'm going to turn it over to Linda Erdos.
No, I'm not Linda Erdos. So my mother also has this great saying. She said, there's a reason why pencils have erasers. And so you use them when you make mistakes. So I have to apologize to the principals. I made a mistake. I'm going to blame it on technology. Isn't that the excuse that we use today? But I missed some of our principals, Dwayne. So can you go back? For whatever reason, I missed a slide of principals, and I want to go back. Barcroft principal, Judy Apostolica Buck, and Gabrielle Rivas. Can you guys stand? Barrett principal, Dan Redding and Reagan Soar, and they're right over here. Campbell principal, Maureen Nesselrode and Karen Amazon. And Carlin Springs principal, Eileen Delaney and Melinda Phillips. Okay, because they'll check with me later. Did I get everybody? Yes? All right, we're good. Thank you.
Over the next, let's say, about 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to try to go through a whole lot of information to get you started. As I said earlier, take notes. It's on the website. It's in the guidebooks and information you have. But let's sort of walk you through. The one question I think we get asked more than anything else from parents getting ready to start is, when's the first day of school? First day of school in Arlington will be Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. It's the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. And all of our schools start then. Barcroft Elementary operates on a modified year-round calendar, and their start of school will be on August the 5th, 2019. Families in the Barcroft neighborhood that do not want the modified calendar do have the option of attending Randolph, so you can talk with the principals about that. And the school board will be adopting the full school year calendar, I believe, on February the 7th. So if you look on the website, probably a week or so after, we'll try to have as much of that information up with a news release and so forth, with winter break and spring break, so that as you start planning your year next year, you can start putting those dates in your calendars. The guidebook. This guidebook was created a number of years ago from parents saying, I need something to carry with me that has all the information. And so that's sort of what the guidebook was created for. It's information about registration requirements, the papers you need, the school options, the transfer application process. There are hints in there, there's the boundary map and so forth. There's information about immunizations and so forth. Take a look at it, there's a lot of good information. Registration process officially begins this Friday, February 1st. And if you plan for your child to attend your neighborhood school, you can register anytime from February 1st before all the way up to the start of school. But I will say this, if you know your child's going to kindergarten, get registered and you know your child is going to neighborhood school or whatever, and that's your choice, register as soon as possible. Definitely by May 1st, because based on those numbers, we start hiring teachers, and we want the best teachers, and the best teachers we can get earlier in the process. So make sure that you get registered as early, hopefully by the end of this spring, so that we can start planning for your child with books and supplies and everything else that we need. If you're applying for an option school, that time frame is from February 1st until April 15th. So you can file your taxes and register for an option school on the same day. And I'll talk more about that as well. Also, if you have friends or neighbors that are looking for the Virginia Preschool Initiative classes or Montessori, primary Montessori, that's the deadline for those applications as well. In your registration book on page 5 are all the things that you need to register for kindergarten. Your child must be 5 years old on or by September 30th. That's the main requirement. We need a certified copy of the birth certificate or proof of the student identity and affidavit of their age, proof of your residence that you live in Arlington County. You heard Mr. Goldstein talk about our growth. Well, we want everybody in our schools. We want to make sure you live in Arlington, so you need to provide proof. Medical information. There's information in the guidebook about what immunizations you need, physical exam, you need a tuberculosis screening for your child, and your pediatrician should know this as well. There are people that will be here tonight from school health, and if you have specific questions about something, they can help you with that. And then finally, if your child has any special medical needs, if your child is allergic to peanuts, or you have another allergy, or if they're on some sort of medication or have special needs. Now, when you register, or definitely by this summer, contact the school nurse and set a time to sit down and talk and provide a care plan. There are forms that they do for that for your child, so that we're prepared on day one to serve you and your child. Language services. We have it's called the LSRC, Language Services Registration Center. You would register through there rather than the school if there are one of three reasons. First, that your child speaks a language other than English, or if at home the family speaks a language other than English, or third, if your child attended school outside of the United States. And the LSRC information is there. Parents have to attend the meeting together with their child to register for that, and the information is there. So school options. On the website, as well as in your guidebook, is a map of the boundaries. It's a little hard to read, so on the website, there is a boundary locator map where you can put in your address, and it will tell you what the boundaries will be for the fall of 2019. Some of you may know that we changed some boundaries this year, so the information online, I believe, has been updated now, and you can find out what your neighborhood school is. And then at the top of the page, there's a link for schools, and you can go to every school website based on what you're looking for. So a word about the boundary changes. As I said, in December, the board made some changes. The new elementary boundaries created a new attendance zone for Fleet Elementary. Currently, there's a group of schools, students at Henry Elementary. Some of them, plus others, will be moving into the new school called Fleet Elementary in the fall of 2019. And Drew, which was a combination, some neighborhood plus a countywide option, will be strictly neighborhood school now. So the boundaries were drawn for those, and they affected some other. There was some grandfathering. If you have a child that's already enrolled in Arlington Public Schools, and for rising fifth graders, in other words, fourth graders this year, if they were a fifth grader, the fifth grader can stay, and also any younger siblings can stay at the old school, but everybody else is going to the new schools the way the boundaries were drawn. And there will be people here at the School and Community Relations table later on. If you have specific questions about the boundary changes and how it affects you, you can check with them. Oops. Alice Fleet Elementary School opens in September of 2019. This is on the campus right adjacent to Jefferson Middle School. Drew Model School, as I said, will become a full neighborhood school. The Montessori program that is currently at Drew will move to the Patrick Henry building, and the name of that will be Montessori Public School of Arlington as of the fall. Here are the neighborhood elementary schools. You'll see that we have 19 of them on the screen. So in the guidebook, there's a summary for each of them, a little bit of the school overview. We really strongly encourage all of you to visit your neighborhood school. Know what's in your neighborhood and what it's like. And then, as I said earlier, if you're satisfied and you want to go to your neighborhood school, which I would say the majority of our families do go to their neighborhood school, you can register your child after February 1st. Transportation is provided to all qualifying areas, and what happens with transportation is you get letters in August that tells you the bus schedule and the time and the bus stop and so forth. Our option schools, let me go back there for one more thing. In years past, when we had a lot fewer people in the school system, there were some transfers from one neighborhood school to another. Because we are so crowded right now, there are no options for transferring from one neighborhood school to another. What we do have are the elementary option schools. These are the countywide schools that have no boundary, and they're open by application to everybody in the county. There's Arlington Traditional School, Campbell Elementary School, which is the expeditionary learning program. We have two immersion schools, Claremont Elementary School, which is an English-Spanish immersion program, and the school names that are listed right under Campbell, those are the feeder neighborhood boundary zones into Claremont. And then for Key Elementary, which is also our second Spanish immersion program, they also have feeder schools that feed into them. And for, if you're interested in Montessori Public School, I mentioned about the move, and they also have an information night. I believe it's next week on February 6th at Drew. So you can find out more from them if you stop by to visit with the Montessori folks. Okay, so how you apply for an option school. There is an online process that we use now. There are no more paper forms or anything. And we did this first last year and tweaked it a little bit based on things that we heard. So it opens online February 1st at 8 a.m. and it closes on April the 15th at 4 p.m. You go online if you want to apply for, and you fill out, you just need either a cell phone number or an email address to do this. And if you want to apply for more than one option with this process, you may do so at that point. The way we choose is if there are more applications than there are slots available, we do what is called a random double-blind lottery. Now, what's that mean? It essentially means, and it's done electronically, but it pulls one name from one list and a number from another and matches. So you might be chosen first, but you might get the number 200, whereas you could be also the next to the last person and get number 1. So it mixes it up more in the process. This is not a first come, first serve. You just have to do it by the 15th online. We do have sibling preference, so if you had an older sibling at the same school, your family would be given preference because the board doesn't want to split up families if at all possible. And then twins, if you have twins or triplets or quads, they're treated as one. Major change for this year are our wait lists, and that I'll talk about that in a second. So the online application, you create an account, and that's for you and for any child in your family from here on out. You keep using it. And you can complete it for options or transfers if they are available. You create an account, you use an email address or cell phone number. Families can access it after you've completed it. You can do it for multiple students. You can also apply for multiple option schools if you want. You can do this on a personal computer. You can do it on a tablet or iPad, or you can do it on an iPhone or smartphone. Families can select to receive their lottery notification by email or by text or both, whichever you want to receive. And you will be able to, after the wait lists have been formed, you will be able to check periodically on what your position is on the wait list so you don't have to call anyone. So for the lotteries, I mentioned if the applications are more, we do a lottery. When families apply to more than one school or program, your application goes into all lotteries at the same time. Immersion applications are divided up into two groups, the group of Spanish speakers and the group of English speakers. And that is so that we can have a balance of approximately 50-50 Spanish and English speakers for the program. The lotteries are held at the Syfax Education Center, which is down on Washington Boulevard, in the Welcome Center, which is on the first floor, and that'll be on April the 23rd. So how do you find out? I mentioned you'll get an email or text, and you'll get that by May the 1st. The parents, you must confirm or decline by May 15th. And if you don't confirm or decline, then your slot is taken away, and we move on to the wait list. So you have to choose, and you have to choose one. So if you were lucky enough that, let's say you applied for 2 or 3 things and you got into all 2 or 3, first of all, you should have bought a lottery ticket that day. But secondly, you can only choose one. And once you notify us which one you've chosen, we take you off the other lists. And then if you don't get your first choice, you can decline the space that's being offered if you want to remain on the waiting list for your first choice. So it's your choice, and that'll be explained in the letter you receive, but you do have to let us know by May the 15th. The wait lists remain active until July the 1st, and we stop moving people at that point, because by that point we need to start building our classes and our class lists and so forth. So just want to let you know. The other change that's different this year is, unlike previous years, the wait lists no longer roll over from year to year. So if you applied for one school and you didn't get in this year, next year, if you still want that school, you need to apply for it again, so that we're not carrying wait lists of long people who decide they really like the school they're in and don't want to move. I mentioned, but I did want to update you that we are in the process, because of our growth, that this spring we'll be reviewing the bus stops. Take a, sort of watch the news or the website. We'll be putting out some information about possible meetings that we're doing. What we're trying to do is have fewer stops and greater efficiency so that some of the rides aren't as long. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. Lots of resources available for you. First of all of the elementary schools, neighborhood schools, and option schools have information sessions where you can visit the school during the day. Some of them even have more if you check their website, but the dates are on page 5 in your guidebook. Dates and times are listed there, or they're on the website. And we really strongly encourage you to go see the people and the place where your child might be going to school. Extended day, that's that early morning and late after school care program is very popular, and they're going to have 2 sessions here tonight to talk about their program, one at 8 o'clock and one at 8:30. So if you're interested in that, I'm not going to say a whole lot. Stop by, and they'll be here in the auditorium for both sessions. Students with special needs, we have this Special Education Parent Resource Center that offers tremendous support for families, sessions on IEPs and a lot of other things, and their phone number's up there. If you have a child with special needs, I strongly encourage you to connect with them. And they will be here tonight as well, afterwards if you want to talk. Family resources on the website. If you go, there are a lot of resources there. You can click to the calendars, the lunch menus, publications about Arlington Public Schools, and so forth. So there's a lot of information online. This is a brochure that tells you how we communicate with families. Obviously, we have the website. Engage with APS is a section on the website. Mr. Goldstein mentioned it earlier. All of the things like boundary changes and policy changes and budget issues and so forth, that's where we keep all of that information. So you can check out what's happening and where things are and stay involved and ask questions if you need to. APS School Talk is a service. You could register right now since you're not a parent in Arlington Public Schools. But once you're registered, as of July 1, the email address you give us and any cell phone numbers you give us, those become our contact with you. And schools can send you direct messages, plus we can send you countywide messages about school operations, or if it's snowing or whatever. We do digital media, social media, we have the TV channel, lots of things to keep you informed. Our summer activities fair, lots of parents are looking at what they can do in the summer to keep learning going. So that's open to all of our APS families, and you're welcome to attend. It's Friday, February the 8th, and it's at Kenmore Middle School. So what's next? That's a lot of information in a very short time. Welcome to Arlington Public Schools.